Welcome to ClueCon Weekly. Join us every Wednesday to learn about the latest cutting-edge developments in the real-time communications industry. ClueCon Weekly is brought to you by FreeSwitch Solutions. Get support and professional services directly from the creators of the FreeSwitch open source project, solving your issues in the most efficient, stable, and scalable way possible. Get the FreeSwitch advantage. Visit freeswitch.com. Also brought to you by ClueCon, the premier technology conference for developers by developers. Join us every summer in Chicago. ClueCon kicks off on Monday with our annual hackathon, The Coder Games, followed by 3 days of technology-rich presentations discussing telecom, WebRTC, and IoT from developers around the world. To learn more, visit ClueCon.com or call 877-74-CLUE.
And welcome to ClueCon Weekly. Today is, the 28th of February already, guys. 2018. You're screaming by. So this week we're going to have Dan Jenkins. He's going to be talking to us about CommCon. If you guys don't know Dan, he's been around the community for a while. He's done some really cool stuff with MIDI in the web browser, some really cool other RTC projects. So you're definitely going to want to check out his work and stand by and see what he's going to be talking about today with CommCon. And before we get to that, let's go over to Miss Kathleen King with the news. How are you doing today, Kathleen?
Hi, I'm doing really well. Hello, and thank you all for joining us today on ClueCon Weekly with our guest, Dan Jenkins. If you have any questions during the call, please comment in the YouTube, HipChat, or IRC channels, and we'll try and answer them during the call. Mike Jarris from the team will be speaking at CommCon in June, so don't miss what he has to say about the future of FreeSwitch. Don't forget to save the date. ClueCon will be earlier this year, taking place from July 23rd to July 26th. You can register right now on ClueCon.com. While you're out there registering, take advantage of our February deal by using the discount code CC2018SAVEGREAT to get $500 off your registration. You have until midnight tonight. Go use that now, guys. It is less than 24 hours to take advantage of this fantastic deal. Do not miss out. We're bringing back the boat tour. So while you're registering for ClueCon, make sure to RSVP for that. We're very excited. Last year, we had a wonderful time cruising up and down the river and into the lake for some fantastic views of the city. Make sure you reserve your space when registering. Otherwise, you might miss out. FreeSwitch training will also be back at ClueCon 2018. Space is limited, so be sure to register for that ASAP. Speakers, signups are open right now, so start writing those slides and submit your proposals. You only have about 30 days to get this proposal submitted because signups close on April 1st. Keep in mind, ClueCon is earlier this year, so all the deadlines will be adjusted accordingly. And if you have any suggestions for videos you would like to see, please email us at marketing@cluecon.com. We'll continue to add instructional videos periodically. We even have the latest FreeSwitch with Fred up right now, so go check that out. And as usual, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our mailing list for these and all the latest and greatest announcements from the FreeSwitch team. Thanks. Back to you, Ken.
All right. Thank you very much, Kathleen. So now we're going to go over to Mr. Michael Malvarudis, and Mike's going to kick it off with Community Corner. How are you doing today, Mike?
Wonderful. Wonderful. For today's Community Corner, we have a question for Mike Jarris. The question is from Mohammed Omer, and he asks, how do I determine what the video frame rate is in conference pass-through mode?
So it's a little bit of a tricky question. The short answer is you can't. So video frame rate isn't really negotiated as part of the SDP, and in conference pass-through mode, all we're doing is taking the video stream from the sender and sending it along to the receiver. So not only can you not know what it is without just looking at how quickly you get frames, it can be adaptive. It can change throughout the stream. So you can't know. All you can do is base it on when they come in, what the timestamps are on the packets coming into you. That being said, I do recommend not using pass-through mode. I know a lot of people really want to use it because it doesn't do any transcoding, but basically all of the features that we added when we added proper video support are impossible with pass-through because it is just pass-through. We don't interact with the media at all. So it's a barely functional conference setup with pass-through. It's there only for legacy reasons. Doesn't handle things well like switching video because we don't manage things like keyframes and stuff like that well in pass-through mode. So if you really want any features with video, pass-through is not really an option for you. We've kept it in there for legacy for the time being. It may go away in the future. We'll have to see. It has not yet. But I don't ever recommend using pass-through. It is a barely functional legacy feature.
So what would be the advantages of using it, just out of curiosity?
So the advantages of using pass-through is the one major advantage is there's no transcoding. So the amount of CPU and RAM necessary to actually do conference video is essentially zero. All we're doing is shuffling packets from one side to the other. So, I mean, that part is great. If you really want a solution like that, an SFU solution is probably a much better solution than for conferencing. I mean, that's essentially what you're looking for. There's some downsides to SFU in that clients with less CPU now get multiple streams, so it's harder for them to decode and harder bandwidth. Maybe we're going to look at something more of a hybrid in the future. We've discussed that. But for now, a much better solution if you're looking for pass-through would be to look at a SFU solution like Jitsi, which already has all of those capabilities. If you're looking for a MUX, we're a great video solution. If you're looking for a pass-through solution, something like Jitsi is just a better solution right now.
Well, really interesting stuff. Now, this question actually gets asked quite a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it actually got asked again this morning on chat not an hour ago. So definitely people are trying to figure out how to get the most out of video, and of course they want all of the features that would require us to interact with the video stream without any of the cost of doing so. So,
and you know what it is? They're probably just used to voice, and so they think it's the equivalent of bypass media.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially is, but video gets complicated and even more complicated in a conference situation where the video source is changing. It's just a lot easier to do in conference, and audio transcoding is much less expensive than video transcoding. So all of those issues, once again, 10 years later, but with an order of magnitude difference in cost. So we deal with the same problems again. Lots of interesting features, but features always cost you something, and in this case, it costs you CPU.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike.
Yep, no problem.
And now we have, for our regular presentation, we have Dan Jenkins, who's doing something very different.
Hello.
Hi, Dan. Would you like to talk about your event conference?
Why not? So CommCon is in June, 25th to the 29th of June this year, and it's an event that's a little bit different. It's in the UK, so I think it's the only open source RTC conference in the UK for probably at least 4 years or so. The last RTC event that I can really remember that wasn't kind of quote commercial was a WebRTC event that Sahi ran in London. But we don't really get very many kind of VoIP type events in the UK, and I guess the closest ones to us are Camelio World and OpenSIPs in Berlin and Amsterdam. And then if you want to hear about Asterisk or FreeSwitch, you have to come over to the US. I like coming over to the US, but lots of other people don't. So I wanted to kind of get those people that don't like traveling as much over to an event in the UK that's a little bit different.
Well, and your area of focus is a little bit different from the other types of conferences as well. So
right, exactly. So like
two separate tracks, right?
All the ones that I just talked about all kind of look at one project mostly. Like you'll get the odd talk at Asterisk at Astracon about FreeSwitch. You'll get an odd talk at ClueCon about Asterisk, but there'll be like one talk. And so, I mean, that's the way it should be. You're going to ClueCon because you want to know more about FreeSwitch. Whereas my conference, CommCon, is very much a broad thing. There's one talk about one project, and that's it. So FreeSwitch will only have one talk. Asterisk will only have one talk. We've got a whole WebRTC track. So like Jitsi will only have one talk mentioning Jitsi. So yeah, it's very different to the norm, let's say.
So Mike Jarris is going to be talking from the FreeSwitch team, and then I'm going to be there as well.
Yeah.
But no presentations from
the very first ticket that I sold. So you'll get like a special thing when you arrive as like, thank you, Mike, for being the first person that bought a ticket. But yeah, Mike Jarris is going to be there talking about the future of FreeSwitch. But yeah, all of the other projects are going to be there, and then loads of other cool things in the WebRTC space as well.
So let's talk about the two tracks. One is RTC based, right?
So one's typical telephony, VoIP, and then the other one is kind of classed as RTC, but really it's WebRTC with like one or two talks that aren't. So yeah, in the let's see whether or not I can show you the schedule. Can you show my screen? There we go. So yeah, you arrive on the Monday. This is where it's like really different to any other conference. You kind of pay one price, and everything's kind of included. So you arrive on the Monday, so that you're all kind of ready and awake on the Tuesday. You don't have to get to the venue ready for the conference on the Tuesday. You're already there. So you get there on the Monday, and then Tuesday there's the VoIP track and there's the WebRTC track. So yeah, we've got Asterisk, we've got the Homer team, we've got Iran from Sipgate talking about deploying real world applications, and then Simon from Simwood. Simwood are one of our platinum sponsors, and as the time goes on, so we've got all 3 days we've got two tracks, and then after lunch each day we've got this kind of combined session, and then after that combined session there's workshops. So it's like a morning full of talks in two tracks, and then after lunch we've got this one talk, and then after that we've got workshops or panels.
So you were one of the early guys to kind of do a lot of that type of RTC work, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I remember probably almost 7 years ago now, taking a Raspberry Pi with Asterisk. I want to say Asterisk 10 or 11. I can't remember which one had WebRTC support in it. I remember doing that, and then trying to get a quote SIP call going from the browser, and failing miserably and talking to Josh Culp on IRC, and saying, why is this not working? So yeah, I guess I was one of the first around doing this kind of stuff and failing miserably, and then kind of left it for a year or so for things to get better. As a web developer, I hate like looking at C and having to figure things out for myself and anything that's complicated. So I let other smart people do all of that. And then I came back to it when things were better, let's say. Well, I can't really say better. WebRTC only really got good like the beginning of this year. So
yeah, there's a lot of, you have a lot of browser exceptions, and
yeah, exactly.
It's always for me. RTC's always been like this, black magic that I've never really understood. Mostly because I don't really play around with it that much. but it's definitely like this,
As a VoIP developer,
cool apps came from it too.
Yeah, as a VoIP developer, it's fairly quote easy because you're used to media streams and you're used to signaling and having to give offers and answers and things like that. As a web developer, it was complete and utter black magic because no one really told you about the whole, well, you have to send this offer thing, and offers have this thing called SDP, and SDP has these weird things in, and like I went probably 5 years without really understanding SDP at all, and just kind of knowing enough to make myself dangerous. Like SDP in VoIP land is very different to SDP in WebRTC. There's like loads of extra stuff that you just wouldn't think about. So
candidates and all that stuff.
Right. So yeah, it did take a while to get there, to get to a point where web devs can feel more secure doing it, and it's easier to get into it as well. But also, it's easier to just get started because there are more projects out there. So Comet Elio can do WebSockets now, and it couldn't all the way back then. FreeSwitch can do WebRTC. We're using it right now, and Asterisk can as well. And then there's projects like RTP Engine that can help as well. RTP Engine announced the other week that it now supports transcoding. So before, where you might use RTP Engine in a very specific use case, when it came to WebRTC, you can now use it for a ton more stuff, and you don't necessarily need to have a quote media server in the middle. So there's tons of good stuff happening in the WebRTC space, and yeah, this is what I wanted to kind of tackle within CommCon.
So over the years, you collaborated with a lot of really large organizations, and some of them have actually, they're sponsors for the project, for the conference, right?
Right. Sponsorship. So there's a couple more that aren't on here yet that need to be added. So I mentioned just a minute ago Simon from Simwood. We've kind of known one another for a long time, and recently we started doing some stuff together when it comes to WebRTC, coolstats.io. So I'm not sure if everyone knows what coolstats is, but it's essentially stat collection for WebRTC metrics. And so they probably wanted they wanted like shims for good SDKs, good browser SDKs. Probably must be about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now. So Nimblewake have made quite a few shims around libraries. So we did one for JSZip, we did another one for ZipJS, we've done another one for Twilio Video, and there's another one that escapes my memory at the moment. But yeah, if you want to do anything with WebRTC in a good way, you really want to know about the quality of calls and why things take seconds to make a call, to set up a call. And in the WebRTC space, that wasn't very easy to do. It still isn't today. Trying to actually get stats out of a WebRTC call is actually really, really tough, because Chrome's just moved over to a new standard. Firefox is still on the old way of doing things. They both include different information, and they do things in different ways. So CoolStats is a service that kind of makes that really, really easy. So CoolStats are one of our platinum sponsors. And that's what I really wanted. I wanted a platinum sponsor that was part of Stephanie, and then I wanted a platinum sponsor that was part of typical WebRTC. And they're both amazing companies within themselves, and they give back to the community, and the communities around them wouldn't be the same if they didn't exist. So they're the platinum.
So Dan, do you want to explain what a shim is to some of the audience? Because it's funny, it's not a term I've heard in a really long time, but it's like,
oh really?
And I've never heard it in the context of RTC. So would it be like a fixer library?
Yeah, pretty much. So anyone that is that knows WebRTC knows about a project called adapter.js, and that's the kind of best example of a shim, where all the browsers have different libraries, have different APIs, and they interact with things in different ways. So adapter.js in this example takes all of those differences and puts them together into a library that kind of replicates the RFC. So yeah, you can go in and use adapter.js, and it kind of normalizes all these APIs that are quote wrong, and makes them into the proper way of doing it. So we've gone in and kind of shimmed the JS SIP library and the SIP.js libraries, so that when you make a call, it kind of already knows how to send that data about the call to callstats.io. So you just include an extra bit of JavaScript and you instantiate it slightly differently. And hey presto, every call that you make in the browser automatically sends all of the relevant data to CallStats without you having to do anything.
And so what is it? What exact stats is it storing? Is it like what stats would it be?
So anyone that knows like the stats that you get out of a VoIP phone call is pretty much the same. So you get your jitter stats, you get your packet loss stats, you get how many ICE candidates were gathered, and how long those ICE candidates took to gather, and then which candidate was then chosen. So I mean, you can imagine if you've got a WebRTC platform and you're making hundreds of calls or thousands of calls, and you get told that a particular call was bad, then you can go in and take a look at the stats from that call and figure out why.
Almost like PDD, right?
Yeah, so it's very much the same as Homer in the sense of VoIP. It's a case of sending you send your stats over to Homer using the HEP, the Homer encapsulation protocol. So you send all your stats over to Homer, and then you can browse in Homer all of your SIP messaging and all of your stats about that specific call. It's exactly the same, but for WebRTC.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So yeah, they're the two platinum sponsors plus Nimble8. Nimble8 has put money in as well. We're not just kind of there as organizers. I really wanted to put, I wanted to put money in as a company and show that we kind of believe in the conference itself as well. So
it's certainly a great concept. It's run by the community for the community, right?
Right, exactly. We as a company, even though I'm the one organizing it, Nimble8 aren't making a profit out of the conference. It was an event that I wanted to run to make the community in Europe better, and therefore, yeah, there's no profit to be made. It's just a case of getting people to meet other people.
And so it's in a beautiful venue.
Yeah. I mean, so I went and probably saw I think 10 venues across the south of the UK. they all kind of had to match up with different requirements. So they had to be close to airports and good transport links and all of that jazz. So I think in the end we went and saw 10 or so different venues. But this place, Wootton House, won. So stepping back a little bit, it's really a residential conference. It's what we call a residential conference, where you pay one price for the venue, for the ticket, and it includes your venue, it includes your conference ticket, it includes all of your food. So you pay the one price, and the only thing you've really got to pay for is one, getting there, and then while you're there, drinks, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is kind of included within the price. So yeah, there's this amazing country house in Surrey called Wootton House, and these pictures kind of show off a little bit about the venue. But because it's a residential conference, there's no other guests at this hotel. It's just us. So all week it's just us in the conference area, and then in the evenings in the open spaces, etc., around the actual venue.
It's so, just looking at the pictures is so beautiful. I feel like I gotta get dressed up to hang out there. No more tech flip-flops.
No flip-flops. You're not allowed flip-flops.
Well, then I'm at a loss because I won't be able to go anywhere.
Look, they give you Wellington boots for when it rains. Hopefully it's not going to rain because it's in June. But if it does rain, there's Wellington boots already there. Yeah, it's an amazing venue. It's very much an old country house that's been modernized and is able to give a good conference with good facilities, good internet connection, and an amazing experience. I've been to quite a few residential conferences in my time. They're very common in the web space, and some of the best contacts that I've ever made have been from a residential conference. But it gives you the best kind of memory. I don't recall talks that I heard maybe 7 years ago now at my first residential conference. I don't remember the talks. Tech has moved on, but I remember the experience. I remember being on a little island in Ireland at a castle and doing some of the most bizarre things that I would never have expected to do on a little island in Ireland. So that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted people in 5 years' time to go, oh yeah, that conference in the UK was pretty amazing. We should do that again.
Right, and so you have some guys. There's going to be you've got some really interesting, like you have Facebook showing up, right? Slack's going to be doing a presentation. So yeah, what I didn't say was so we've got platinum sponsors, we've got gold sponsors, then we've got silver sponsors which aren't on the site yet, and then we've got community sponsors. So last week Google confirmed as our first silver sponsor, but they're also going to be speaking. I should kind of caveat all of that with when you sponsor, you do not get a talk straight away. You have to put into the call for papers just like anyone else. So you don't, by buying sponsorship, you don't get a sales pitchy talk automatically accepted. So yeah, Google are going to be there speaking, Facebook are going to be there speaking, Slack are going to be there about how they use Slack, how they use WebRTC within Slack on the web, as well as WebRTC in the native apps as well. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see kind of big corporations using and how they use these technologies, and that's something that we don't get to hear a lot about in the VoIP space, I guess. with these big companies, a lot of big companies in the VoIP space at least, don't like saying, yeah, we use Asterisk, yeah, we use FreeSwitch, because they kind of deem it as security and all of that. They don't like kind of shouting about the open source projects they use. Whereas in the WebRTC space, people are always shouting about what projects they use. Slack quite openly tell everyone that they use Janus, but are looking at replacing it with something else. They've said that very, very openly. And there are a ton of other projects that are very, very vocal about what WebRTC, SFU, or MCU they're using, which is quite refreshing and amazing from a developer perspective. And I wish we'd see more of that in the typical VoIP space.
I just heard a statistic recently that was just, to me, I'm used to hearing that, a lot of like the carriers actually use FreeSwitch, but like what was really interesting is I had one of the highest volume carriers say to me, they go, well, everybody uses FreeSwitch, and they're all, we're all cognizant of it, which is really interesting that they outright said that. And it's not something that they talk about, but it's amazing. It's amazing, And one of the great things is how dynamic it is, and how many different applications can be built on top of the platform. It's
well, on top of these open source platforms, all of these projects, including FreeSwitch, give their software away for free, and it's nice when these bigger organizations start talking about it publicly and going, yeah, we use this open source software, and that inherently
especially when they contribute back to the community. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
I think one of the things I'm always so proud about is when I stand in the conferences, and you see all the sponsors. I don't see the sponsors as being in competition with each other. I see it, all the different sponsors as working together to, make the software a better product, right? Because in the end, the sponsors are integral to, part of the business model associated with open source.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of it's hugely important for these companies that do use open source software to kind of start talking about things publicly, and that's why I love when Sim would come and talk, and Flowroot and all of these companies come and talk about how they're using something, and how we as a community can drive stuff forward, and having a sponsor that just sponsors because they want to sponsor, they want to enhance the community, is huge. And that's kind of what the community sponsors are, that line of community sponsors that only has Cloudonics on it at the moment. But this week there were two more, one from Loway who make Qmetrics. They aren't able to come, but they wanted to help the community. And then another one from LOD, Fred Posner, or Posner. Both of these companies have put in money into the conference just because they wanted to put money into the community. They wanted to make the event amazing. So those are the companies that I love.
So you have obviously video is going to be a large component to the presentations, right? And so you have several different SFUs being represented, and then MCUs as well.
Right. So every single, I think almost every major SFU in the WebRTC space, Janus, Jitsi, there's a new one called MediaSoup from I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Why can't I remember his name? Iñaki, sorry. MediaSoup from Iñaki, and then there's another one as well. So there's 4 SFUs. There's FreeSwitch, So FreeSwitch being the only MCU at CommCon. Other than one other project, FreeSwitch pretty much is the only MCU, which is kind of nice. But yeah, there's going to be loads of other projects there as well. Evan was it 2 weeks ago at IT Expo? He's talking about real-time machine learning. So I'm hoping he's going to wear his bow tie, because it's like the right place to wear a bow tie and not flip-flops, Mike. Yeah. Yeah, Home is going to be there. Sipgate are going to be there. Cloudonics are talking about VoIP system management. They're running a workshop as well on ARI, the Asterisk REST interface. Yeah, loads of great talks. OpenSIPs are going to be there. Cametilio are going to be there. Yeah, and Google and Facebook and CoolStats. And then Alex is going to be there talking about Kite. I noticed you've got him coming on in a couple of weeks' time to talk about this new thing called Kite, which is a WebRTC.
So what is Kite?
I can't remember what it stands for. I knew you were going to ask me that as soon as I said it. Go Google it. It's open source testing for WebRTC. And it's a way of running tests against proper tests that test the actual media between two different browsers. So historically, we've been able to test like the fact that APIs work, and there were some basic tests around making sure that things interrupted to a degree, but Kite takes it to the next level.
So it's basically like unit tests for RTC.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
So
and then browser compatibility and that type of stuff.
Right, exactly. It's designed entirely around being able to run essentially unit tests. They're not quite unit tests. They're integration tests, I would call them, where you run a scenario and you expect to get X media on the other side, and it tests that and makes sure that browsers still interrupt within a browser release cycle, for example.
Yeah, it's like browser companies make them all the same and easy for the developers.
But I think Kite was. I'm not sure whether or not Kite was an initiative from Google or whether or not it was from like the working groups. But it's been, as far as I'm aware, it's been a very collaborative type thing around the whole Kite idea. And then Alex and his team went off and made it. But yeah, he's on in a couple of weeks' time.
And then you have the guys from OpenSIPs are going to make an appearance, right? So Razvan speaking.
Yeah. OpenSIPs, Razvan, and then Cametilio, Daniel. So Daniel from the Cametilio project. So that's pretty cool as well. We don't really get to see both projects at very many conferences, which is quite nice to see. I think they were both at ClueCon last year, I think, but other than that, you don't really see them very often.
Well, Fred showed up.
Fred was there, wasn't he? Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, there's loads of good content. There's going to be panels at the end of the conference around VoIP. Not that I've asked people.
Did I get a panel?
I haven't asked people yet. I keep telling people there's going to be a panel about VoIP and there's going to be a panel about WebRTC, but I haven't actually asked any of my speakers to be on a panel. So I need to go do that soon. There will be a panel though. So that's at the end, and then yeah, there's workshops as well. So some of they're pretty cool workshops. So Tim Panson's running one around WebRTC. Near from Cloudonics is running one around the ARI. James Bodie's going to be there doing another workshop around 4G and SIM cards and what he's working on at the moment. I'm not going to talk about that because I don't pretend to really understand it. And then there's
he's doing some cool stuff. It's actually he's putting together these like micro nodes.
Yeah.
In order to fill
like private 4G or something. Yeah. I just nod and go, yeah, okay, this would be great. So yeah, he's going to be there, and that's going to be quite cool because everyone will get to play around with private 4G type stuff, which is going to be pretty cool. And then there's an unannounced workshop, which hopefully will get confirmed in a couple weeks' time.
Okay, so the whole time we've been talking about the RTC track, but what's the other track?
So that's the open source VoIP track. So yeah, the OpenSIPs team, Kamit Elio, Homer. So Homer are going to be talking about, I think, Homer 7.
Yeah, Lorenzo's been knocking out some really cool stuff recently.
Right. And then there's another cool project called Dractio, and I know you've had Dave Horton on ClueCon Weekly before, but in case anyone doesn't know, there's this really cool project called Dractio, and I use it an awful lot at Nimble8, and basically it's a SIP proxy. Well, it's not just a SIP proxy; it could be anything when it comes to SIP, but it allows me as a Node dev to go and write a SIP proxy using Node. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Kamit Elio, and I love OpenSIPs, but I like writing Node for lots and lots of reasons. I can write unit tests. It's just the thing that I write I write JavaScript every day. So for me, Kamit Elio config is just like, there's this really cool project called Dractio, and I think more people should know about it. I use it heavily, so I kind of.
That's up on GitHub.
It's up on GitHub, yeah. So I asked Dave whether or not he wanted to come and speak and put in a call for put in a paper into the call for papers. He did. So he's one of those combined talks between both tracks. So that's going to be pretty cool as well because it kind of it relates to WebRTC and it relates to open source VoIP.
So last week we had a presentation by LibView from the OpenSIPs project. Did you see that presentation?
No, I didn't. ClueCon Weekly is always at a weird time for me. It's at 6 p.m., which is when I'm just about to eat dinner. So unless the wife is out and I can put it on the TV while I eat dinner, generally I have to watch it days later, and I haven't got around to watching it yet. So what were they talking about?
So they essentially have something where you can subscribe to FreeSwitch events.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then it's a two-way channel, and you can control FreeSwitch.
Cool.
So
okay.
I think, yeah, to a certain extent, it'll do a lot of that stuff that that the node kind of interaction kind of did, but now you can do it in a more controlled manner. Or at least from I don't know if it's actually more controlled from my perspective, because I'm a telecom guy, right?
Right. Yeah, I hate writing dial plan. I hate writing configs and things for SIP. So yeah, those kind of things are pretty cool. Yeah, I'll have to go and watch it.
So it's almost like it would be the equivalent of like having like a message queue.
Right. And so it talks to the what is it, the ESL within FreeSwitch? Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly it. It's just it keeps the ESL connection running, and you can create subscriptions and all that stuff. And, just take events and then do anything with the events. I mean, it's cool stuff.
Cool. And then something that we haven't talked about yet is because it's a residential conference, like dinner and breakfast and lunch are all included. And so after the conference, everyone has dinner together. You sit down next to someone different every day, and you go and have dinner with them. And then after dinner are evening activities to keep everyone interested, like doing new things. So
So what are the activities? Come on, you gotta tell me about the activities.
I'm only going to tell you about one activity because I want attendees to kind of see it for the first time and go, oh, that's really cool. So I'm going to tell you about one to get you interested. And that one is duck herding. So imagine being at an English country house with like lots of ground outside, with some ducks and some geese, and you're going to herd them around, and you're going to get taught how to herd them into the right place, and you'll be able to do duck herding.
So I have a little bit of experience with this, right? It sounds crazy, but I used to have an office building, and outside of the office building was like an acre between the parking lot and the office building, and we used to have these geese. And ducks are relatively nice, but geese are mean. Like they're mean animals. And you know, essentially they'll be aggressive and they'll like walk up to you and but essentially they when you're talking about herding, they move in packs.
Right.
And so I could see with ducks, and I really haven't had any experience with ducks, but I could see it being like a really cool concept, like walking in a direction and then all of a sudden they all kind of go off, right? And so it's almost like putting like oil and water together and watching the oil kind of disperse.
Right. Yeah, so that's going to be pretty cool. I've only seen it on YouTube. But as soon as I knew that I could do it, I was like, we're definitely having duck herding in an English house. Well, in the grounds of an English house, not inside. So, I mean, what could be more British than duck herding outside after a long day of learning? Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. I can't wait. Like, I think it's going to be so much fun.
Hopefully. I really, really hope people kind of enjoy it and kind of see it for what it is. It's a informal networking activity where people can just have fun. And if you make,
and as always, I'm buying the drinks, so they are free.
Right. So yeah, it should be good fun. I really hope people enjoy it. And we've still got tickets on sale. So if we have piqued your interest today, you should definitely go to commcon.xyz or Z, depending on where you are in the world, and buy a ticket. So pricing is £1,600, but that includes everything. You just have to get there, pretty much. Yeah. And we're still looking for sponsors. If people want to sponsor a community event for the community, by the community, we're still looking for sponsors to help make it what it should be, what an amazing event.
Well, I'll tell you one thing: you have a great venue, and you've got an amazing list of speakers. So, I think it'd be a wonderful event.
Yeah,
we're running a little short on time. Back to you, Ken. Thank you so much for presenting today, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always good having you on.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jersey Mike. You guys check out the links. They'll be posted below the YouTube video here in the show notes, so you guys can go sign up for CommCon. Don't forget, you'll see Free Switch guys there. Dan mentioned all kinds of different people that'll be there, so it's definitely something you might want to check out, and I think it'll be real good there. Don't forget, join us next week. We'll be right back here on ClueCon Weekly. And if you have any ideas for guests or videos that you'd like to see here on ClueCon Weekly, be sure you email marketing@cluecon.com and get those ideas into us. And we'll, myself and Kathleen, will work on getting those people in here so you can see what they've got to say. We'll see you guys next week.
You've been watching ClueCon Weekly. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central. Keep up with the latest happenings by subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or visit us at freeswitch.com.